Hey guys, tonight we begin with something even stranger than gladiators, because Rome did not only build places where people watched violence, Rome built places where people watched power pretending not to be power. Imagine waking up in the heart of Rome and hearing rumours spread through crowded streets that the emperor is opening something extraordinary. Not an arena, not a temple, something larger, stranger, almost impossible. Public baths. And not small neighbourhood bathhouses where a few tired workers wash dust from their skin after a long day. No, we are talking about structures so enormous they feel less like buildings and more like indoor cities. You stand there watching workers carry marble columns taller than houses. Giant statues arrive. Water channels snake across the city. Entire sections of Rome seem to rearrange themselves around this thing. At first you think it sounds absurd. Why would anyone build something this large simply for bathing? But then you hear more details. There are heated rooms, cold pools, gardens, libraries, exercise areas, meeting spaces, massive halls covered in polished stone. Suddenly you realise something unsettling. This is not about bathing at all. Bathing is simply the excuse. Rome understands something about human beings that many governments will understand for thousands of years afterward. People rarely gather because they are told to gather. They gather because gathering feels good. You enter through enormous doors and immediately cool air brushes against your face. Light spills through high windows. Marble reflects sunlight across walls and floors until the entire place seems almost unreal. Voices echo across chambers. Water splashes somewhere in the distance. Conversations blend together into one giant soft hum. Senators walk nearby discussing politics. Merchants negotiate business deals beside steaming pools. Soldiers laugh loudly in corners. Poets recite ideas nobody asked for. Athletes show off muscles they're extremely proud of. Ordinary people stand shoulder to shoulder with men who shape laws and command armies. And for a brief moment Rome feels equal. Almost equal. Because Rome never really forgets hierarchy. Not completely. Some citizens arrive wearing expensive fabrics and carrying perfumes from distant provinces. Others arrive with patched sandals and tired eyes. But inside these walls something changes. You all share the same water. You breathe the same warm air. You occupy the same space. It feels unifying. It feels generous. And that feeling matters because generosity creates loyalty. You begin noticing how people talk about the emperor differently. Not directly. Never directly. Nobody says, I support him because of infrastructure spending. Humans rarely think that way. Instead, they say things like, have you seen the new baths? Or, the city feels better recently. Or, things seem more organised now. Small observations, harmless observations. But together they create something larger. Gratitude. And gratitude is powerful because grateful people overlook problems. Grateful people become patient. Grateful people associate comfort with leadership. The emperor understands this perfectly. Because while everyone enjoys warm pools and beautiful architecture, something else is happening quietly beneath the surface. Every heated room requires engineering. Every fountain requires planning. Every pipe carrying water beneath the streets whispers the same message over and over again. Rome works, Rome functions, Rome provides. And if Rome provides, perhaps Rome deserves obedience too. You return the next day because that is the strange thing about these baths. They pull people back. At first you tell yourself it is practical. The warm water feels good after long days walking crowded streets. The heated floors are comforting. The noise of the city fades behind thick stone walls. But somewhere beneath that explanation, another truth quietly sits waiting. You come back because something about this place changes how Rome feels. Outside, the city is loud and unpredictable. Wagons crash through streets. Vendors argue over prices. Rumours spread faster than disease. Politics shifts like sand beneath your feet. But inside these enormous halls, everything feels ordered, controlled, predictable. The water arrives exactly where it should. The heat rises through the floors exactly when needed. People move through rooms almost like currents in a river. Warm room, hot room, cold plunge, conversation, rest. Routine settles around you before you even notice it happening. And routine is dangerous because routine becomes comfort, and comfort becomes trust. You begin noticing details that escaped you before. Giant statues stand silently in corners, carved heroes watching over the crowds. Painted ceilings stretch high overhead, showing gods and victories and scenes reminding everyone exactly who built civilization itself. Everywhere your eyes move, there is a message hidden. Beneath beauty, Rome is powerful. Rome is organized. Rome is generous. Rome takes care of its people. No one walks beside you repeating these ideas directly because they do not need to. Stone repeats them instead. Architecture repeats them. The building itself becomes a voice. You pass a group of merchants discussing grain shipments from Egypt. Nearby, two soldiers joke about distant provinces. Further away, elderly men argue over politics while pretending not to care about politics. Everywhere, information moves quietly from person to person. And suddenly another realization settles into your mind. This place isn't only a bathhouse, it is a network. News travels here, rumors travel here, opinions travel here. The entire empire somehow squeezes itself into these walls. If you want to understand Rome, you stop listening to official speeches and start listening beside pools. Because people reveal themselves around comfort. They speak more freely, they laugh louder, they complain honestly. Rome's heartbeat isn't hiding in Senate chambers. It echoes through steam and marble. And somewhere above all of this sits the emperor, invisible but present. Because even when he isn't physically there, everyone remembers whose name is attached to the building. You hear it constantly. The emperor built this. The emperor paid for this. The emperor gave this to the people. Gave. Interesting word, because Rome never truly gives anything without expecting something back. Maybe not coins, maybe not labor. But loyalty, absolutely loyalty. You sit beside warm water watching sunlight slide across marble, and for a moment everything feels peaceful, stable, safe. You almost forget the stories your parents told you about riots and shortages and emperors who vanished as quickly as they arrived. You almost forget because comfort is surprisingly effective at editing memory. And maybe that is the real purpose of places like this. Not cleaning bodies, cleaning anxiety, washing uncertainty from people's minds until they leave feeling lighter than they arrived. Not because life improved, but because for a few hours Rome allowed you to borrow the feeling that it had. By now, something almost invisible has started happening, and you only notice it because one afternoon you stop near the edge of a massive pool and simply watch people instead of watching the water. The baths are alive in a way streets are not. Streets feel hurried. People rush through them with places to be and problems to solve. But here, time slows down. Men sit on marble benches speaking in low voices. Small groups gather in corners. Friends laugh loudly beside fountains. Arguments start and disappear as quickly as they arrive. Entire conversations float through warm air and dissolve into steam before reaching the far walls. And suddenly, you understand something uncomfortable. Rome does not need to force people to gather. Rome simply creates places too attractive to avoid. The empire understands human nature with almost frightening precision, because people are predictable. Give them warmth, beauty, and comfort, and eventually they begin bringing their lives with them. Business comes here, politics comes here, gossip arrives, ideas arrive, ambitions arrive. You notice young men carefully standing near important senators, pretending their presence is accidental while quietly hoping a conversation begins. You notice wealthy merchants laughing beside military officers, because friendships built beside warm water sometimes become profitable partnerships later. You notice poets reciting dramatic lines to audiences that never asked for poetry but politely listen anyway because social rules are strange things. You notice people building futures without realizing they are doing it. And then another thought quietly slips into your mind. Maybe the baths are not only places where Rome gathers people. Maybe they are places where Rome observes people. Because information moves strangely here. Someone mentions unrest in a distant province. A soldier overhears. A merchant adds details. Someone nearby remembers hearing similar rumours last week. Suddenly, dozens of tiny fragments become one larger story. The empire learns things because citizens cannot stop talking. And why would they stop? People surrounded by comfort become relaxed. Relaxed people become honest. Honest people become useful. You glance around the enormous chamber again. Thousands of people move through these halls every day. Thousands of conversations. Thousands of opinions. Thousands of fears and hopes and complaints floating through steam. Somewhere officials probably understand this perfectly. Somewhere someone realizes that gathering citizens together in one beautiful place reveals more than 100 interrogations ever could. But perhaps the most brilliant part is that nobody feels watched. Nobody feels controlled. Quite the opposite. You feel free here. You feel relaxed. You feel like you escaped. Rome for a few hours, which is ironic because you are actually standing inside one of the most Roman places ever created. Outside these walls, the empire stretches across continents, armies guard borders, governors collect taxes, ships move grain across dangerous seas. Problems never stop multiplying. But inside here, everything feels manageable, and maybe that is why these places matter so much. Empires are complicated things. Most people cannot understand how governments truly function. Most citizens cannot see distant wars or political negotiations or economic systems holding everything together. Those things are too large, too abstract. But warm water, beautiful buildings, comfortable spaces, those things people understand immediately. You cannot always feel stability in laws, but you can feel it beneath your feet when heated floors warm the stone below you. And maybe that is the genius hidden beneath all of this. Because while everyone believes they came here to wash dust from their skin, Rome quietly washes something else entirely. Fear, doubt, uncertainty, and people leave cleaner than they arrived in more ways than one, and eventually, after enough visits, after enough afternoons disappearing into steam and marble and comfortable routines, you stop noticing the baths themselves, which is perhaps the most important moment of all, because truly successful things become invisible. You no longer walk inside and stare at towering columns or admire the engineering beneath your feet. You simply expect it now. Warm floors are expected, flowing water is expected, safety is expected, order is expected. Rome has quietly turned extraordinary things into ordinary experiences, and ordinary experiences shape people more than spectacles ever do. The Colosseum overwhelms you. The baths absorb you. The arena shocks you with noise and blood and movement. But here, influence arrives softly, slowly, patiently, day after day, visit after visit, until one afternoon you sit beside the water and realize you have not worried about politics in weeks. You have not thought much about instability or rumors or uncertainty. Your attention shifted somewhere along the way, not because anyone forced it to shift, but because human beings naturally move toward comfort. That is what we do. We move toward warmth, toward routine, toward places that make life feel manageable. Around you, the city continues breathing. Men continue arguing over trade routes. Soldiers continue discussing military campaigns. Senators continue negotiating alliances and betrayals hidden beneath polite smiles. Somewhere beyond Rome's walls, distant provinces continue resisting Roman control. Somewhere people are still fighting and dying. Somewhere grain shipments still face storms and pirates and delays. Problems never disappeared. The empire never suddenly became perfect. But inside these walls, perfection feels close enough to touch. And maybe that feeling matters more than reality itself. Because governments have always understood something strange about people. Human beings do not judge systems only by facts. They judge systems by feelings. Do you feel protected? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel optimistic about tomorrow? If yes, many other problems become easier to ignore. And suddenly you understand that Rome was building far more than baths all along. Rome was building emotional architecture. Stone designed not only to hold roofs, but to hold confidence itself. Water designed not only to clean skin, but to wash away anxiety. Buildings designed not merely for function, but for psychology. Because once people associate comfort with the empire, questioning the empire becomes emotionally difficult. You do not want to criticize the thing that makes you feel secure. You do not want to challenge the thing attached to your happiest routines. Somewhere nearby, children run through halls laughing loudly enough for their voices to echo against marble walls. Elderly men sit comfortably discussing stories from decades earlier. Friends joke beside pools. Life unfolds naturally around you, and for a moment everything feels permanent. But then a strange thought enters your mind, because nothing in Rome has ever truly been permanent. You remember stories of emperors rising and falling. You remember fires. You remember riots. You remember leaders everyone once believed would last forever. Stone feels eternal until one day cracks appear. Empires feel invincible until suddenly they do not. The baths seem timeless today, but time eventually reaches everything. Water wears down rock. Politics wears down governments. Human beings wear down certainty itself. One day these halls may stand empty. One day grass may push through cracks in marble floors. One day strangers may walk through ruins wondering what happened to the people who once filled these rooms with laughter and conversation. They may look at broken walls and imagine Rome as something distant and mysterious. They may struggle to understand what it felt like to sit here, surrounded by steam and sunlight, believing history itself would continue forever. But you understand something they cannot. Empires rarely collapse while people inside them feel collapse approaching. Most people wake up expecting normal days. Most people continue routines. They continue laughing and meeting friends and discussing ordinary things because ordinary life is powerful. Ordinary life creates the illusion that tomorrow will resemble today. So you sit there beside warm water listening to voices drift through enormous halls, and you realize something quietly unsettling. Rome does not feel immortal because it is immortal. Rome feels immortal because that feeling was built intentionally, carved into stone, carried through water, and repeated until everyone believed it. And perhaps that is the greatest construction project Rome ever completed. Not roads, not arenas, not temples, certainty itself. And now, as evening slowly settles over Rome and long shadows stretch across stone streets outside, you finally leave the baths and step back into the city again. The warm air disappears behind you. The soft echoes of voices fade. The sound of water vanishes, replaced once more by wagon wheels scraping against stone and merchants shouting through crowded streets. The city feels different now, though perhaps the city itself never changed at all. Perhaps you changed. Because comfort has a strange effect on people. It does not simply make hardship disappear. It changes your relationship with hardship. The problems still exist. Somewhere grain prices are rising. Somewhere soldiers guard distant borders where enemies continue testing Rome's strength. Somewhere politicians still whisper in private rooms, smiling in public while quietly planning against each other. Somewhere corruption survives exactly as it always has. The empire is still enormous, still messy, still balancing itself on thousands of invisible systems most citizens will never fully understand. But for a few hours, none of that existed for you. For a few hours, Rome felt perfect. And maybe that was always the true masterpiece, not the marble, not the heated floors, not the impossible rivers of water flowing beneath the city. The true masterpiece was the feeling itself. Rome learned that controlling people does not always require fear. Fear is loud. Fear is exhausting. Fear eventually creates resistance. But comfort is quiet. Comfort wraps itself around you gently. Comfort makes you participate willingly. You never felt manipulated sitting beside warm pools beneath painted ceilings. You felt grateful. You felt lucky. You felt proud to belong to something so large and powerful. And gratitude is stronger than force because people defend what comforts them. They protect what gives them stability. They become loyal not because they are ordered to be loyal, but because loyalty begins feeling natural. You walk slowly through the streets now, passing shops closing for the evening, passing homes where small lamps begin glowing behind windows. Around you, thousands of people continue living ordinary lives. Children run beside parents. Friends laugh together. Somewhere music drifts through the air. Somewhere someone complains about taxes. Somewhere someone falls in love. Ordinary life continues because ordinary life always continues, even inside great empires, even during history itself. And suddenly you understand something strange. History books will probably remember emperors. They will remember wars and victories and dates carved neatly onto pages. They will remember names. But people rarely live inside history books. They live inside routines. They live inside conversations. They live inside moments where they sit beside warm water, believing everything around them will last forever. And perhaps centuries later, when future people stand among ruins where these great baths once stood, staring at broken columns beneath open skies, they will ask the same question humans always ask when looking at fallen civilizations. How could something so powerful disappear? But you know the answer now. Because civilizations rarely vanish while people inside them notice. They disappear while citizens continue laughing, gathering, resting, and planning tomorrow. They disappear while life still feels normal. Rome never truly convinced people it would last forever, because forever is impossible. Rome simply convinced people not to think about endings at all. And as night settles over the city and stars slowly appear above rooftops, you walk home carrying one final realization. The greatest thing Rome ever built was never stone, it was belief. And as you continue walking through Rome beneath the darkening sky, another thought arrives quietly, almost carefully, as if it has been following you all day, waiting for the noise to disappear. Because maybe belief is the only thing every civilization has ever